Hi, welcome to EPR's physics class. Yesterday, we complete different articles. Now it is the time to recollect the highlight points of yesterday's class before going to the new concepts. Let us see. The first one from previous class is which governs the motion of a body. Actually, in the preceding chapters, we are concerned to study the motion of a body quantitatively. That means the cause of the motion is not discussed. Coming to this chapter, what is the cause for the motion of a body? That is our next question. Let us consider this example. When a stationary football was kicked by a player, it begins to move. A strong wind blowing can make the leaves of a tree fall down, and the wind pushes the sail and makes the boat to move. In all these examples, the force which causes the motion of a body is in contact with the bodies. Our next question is it compulsory the force which causes the motion should be in contact always? For this question, my answer is consider a magnet which can pull small iron pieces towards it which are at a certain distance from it. When a ball is allowed to fall down from the top of a tower, its velocity goes on increasing and strikes the ground with the maximum velocity. This is because Earth's gravitational pull attracts the body towards it, and hence its velocity goes on increasing. In the previous case and in this case, if you observe carefully, the force which causes the body to move is not in contact with that body. That means we can conclude that the external agency, so-called force, which causes the motion of a body may or may not in contact with the body. That is the conclusion drawn. Now, another important and interesting question is a force is necessary to maintain the motion of a body? That is our second part of the question. Shall I repeat my question? Is an external force is required to continue the motion of a body? For example, if a body is in motion, then external force is required to continue the motion of a body? That's the next question. Of course, the question appears very simple, but it takes hundreds of years to get a proper and theoretical answer to explain this fact. The first attempt was made by Aristotle before Christ. According to Aristotle, an external force is compulsory to continue the motion of a body. For example, in detail, to study this, imagine a bullet was fired from a gun. Then the bullet begins to move with certain velocity. According to Aristotle, an external force is supplied by the air which is behind the bullet, and it makes the bullet to move from time to time. Similar, if an arrow was released from a bow, the air behind this arrow continues the necessary external force which pushes the arrow from time to time continuously. Of course, later it was disproved by the next age scientists. Hence, it is named as Aristotle's fallacy. It was disproved. That means there is no need of external force for a body which is already in motion. A detailed study regarding this was made by Aristotle. After hundreds of years, he conduct experiments successfully and finally come to the conclusion by studying the motion of a body which was pushed up an inclined plane. While the body moves up its acceleration, its velocity goes on decreasing continuously. When same body is allowed to slide down the inclined plane, he noticed its velocity goes on increasing, hence it accelerates, whereas in the previous case it decelerates. If the same force is applied for a body and allows it to move on a horizontal plane, there is no acceleration or deceleration. Hence the body continues to move with uniform velocity. In this case, no external force is required to maintain this motion. Here is the big difference between Aristotle and Galileo. According to Aristotle, an external force is required to continue the motion of the body. But when a boy is pulling a toy car with the help of a string, a force is required to start the motion, but actually no need of pulling the rope continuously to move the toy car. But the boy is applying the force to overcome the frictional forces which opposes the motion of the car only. Definitely it's a mysterious thing. It is everyone's experience. Once the motion started, no need of external force, but what we are applying, it is used to overcome the forces which opposes the motion. Hence, Aristotle made revolutionary remarks and he identifies the necessity of going to next level of mechanics to explain the existing laws of motion. Of course, this challenge was taken by the famous scientist Newton, and he carried out this single-handedly by his 3 laws of motion, which were famous as Newton's laws of motion. Now let us go to Newton's laws of motion. There are 3 laws which already explained in the previous class. According to first law, every body continues to be in its state of rest or of its uniform motion unless it is compelled by an external force to change its state. Once again, every body continues to be in its state of rest or of its uniform motion unless it is compelled by an external force to change its state of rest. This is Newton's first law. Newton's first law explains 2 important concepts. One is inertia, and the second one is force. So we will discuss these 2 items in this class in detail. Coming to second law, according to Newton's second law, it explains the effect of force on motion. Effect of force on motion. When a force is applied on your system, there is change in the internal momentum of that system. And he related these 2 factors as the rate of change of momentum of your body is directly proportional to the external force and it takes place in the direction of the force, which is very beautiful, and so many numerical part based on Newton's second law in the coming lesson. Coming to Newton's third law, it's very simple, of course very complicated also this. If we go for microscopic study of this law, we can arrive at different concepts of force, which we ignore in our routine study. According to Newton's third law, for every action, there is equal and opposite reaction. I am repeating, for every reaction, there is equal and opposite reaction, but unfortunately, our study is limited to that only. If we add one more point, this two, then only it is valid. Very, very important thing is action and reaction never acts on the same body. In general, I won't find nobody is using this Thailand point, which is very critical. Otherwise, what happened? For every reaction, there will be equal and opposite reaction. Means the action and reaction cancel. Simply speaking, this it's wrong. It's wrong. Let us take this example. It's a fantastic example, brainful example. In a tug of war, each team is pulling the rope with a force of 1000 newtons. In a tug of war, each team is pulling the rope with a force of 1000 newton. My question is, what is the net force in the rope? Option A, 0. Option B, 1000 Newton. Option 3, 2000 Newton. Option 3, none. Unless, if you observe this third law keenly, in a systematic way, it is difficult to answer this question. Each team is the pulling rope with a force of 1000 and 1000. Then net force is equal to 1000 plus 1000. 2000 is the answer. It's one of the possible answer. You are absolutely wrong. If for every reaction there will be equal and opposite reactions, sir. If team A is action, team B is reaction, then both cancel each other. The net tension in the rope is 0. It is second possible answer. Once again, you are wrong. If the tension in the rope is 0, the rope will be very loose. That means if there is no tension at all, you can expect this situation in tug of war. No, the rope is under tension only. Sir, what is the right answer, sir? This. Each force is pulling the force with a force of 1000 Newton. The net force in the rope is 1000 Newton only. That is correct answer. This. Why? Because action and reaction never acts on the same body. Unless if we add this statement to the end of the third law, it's invalid in my view. This. Then what happened to the B team force applied? First team is pulling the rope with a force of 1000 Newton, whereas the second team is protesting them. This. First team applied the force on the rope, whereas the second team applied the same force on the ground in order to protect the pulls. Action and reaction never acts on the same body. Let's come to the simplest example. If a body is placed on a table, its weight mg will act on the table vertically downwards. It is action by the body on the table. As a reaction, what happened? It exerts vertical force, which is called normal reaction, on this body. By the table, on this body. Action acts on the table, reaction acts on the body. Hence, once again we can conclude that action and reaction never acts on the same body. This is Newton's third law of motion. Okay, I am going to give and some physical quantities which oftenly used in this chapter while going through theory as well as in the numerical part. Coming to the physical quantities, the first one is inertia. First one is inertia. And coming to the second one, force. And coming to third one, impulse. And the fourth one is momentum. Let's take one by one. Inertia. A part of this already explained in the previous class. What is inertia? It is the inherent property of a body by virtue of which a body cannot change its state of rest or of uniform motion by itself. By itself, it's important. Stress on that sentence. It is an inherent property. That means if a body which is at rest, it tries to occupy the same position. That means it tries to be at rest only. For a body which is in motion, it tries to move only this. It continues to move only this. But it cannot change its state of rest or motion by itself. This inherent property of a body is called inertia. Inertia. In mechanics, there are three types of inertia. Inertia of rest. Number 2, inertia of motion. Number 3, inertia of direction. Beyond these, we have so many inertia. Thermal inertia, there is one more factor. Electric inertia, which we will meet in our next education. Coming to the inertia of rest. A passenger in a stationary train falls suddenly backward when the train starts suddenly. Once again, imagine a passenger in a train which is at rest initially. When the train takes a sudden move, the man falls backwards. Why? The bottom part of the passenger which is in contact with the train is taken forward along with the train, whereas the upper portion of the passenger will try to be rest in the previous position only. Because of this imbalance, the man falls backward. This is called inertia of rest. Let us see inertia of motion. A moving body which is in motion continues to move only. A man in a moving bus falls forward when sudden brakes were applied to the bus. When sudden brakes were applied to the bus, what happened? The feet of the person which are in contact with the bus were brought to rest immediately by the applying force, whereas the upper portion of the body continues to move due to inertia of motion. Hence, the man falls forward. This is the impact, this is the effect of inertia of motion. Coming to inertia of direction, it is everyone's experience when we are in a moving train or bus. If we take a left turn, you will be thrown outward, that is rightwards. Because the bottom part of our body in contact with the bus takes the left, whereas we retain to be at the same position, hence we will be thrown outward. This is inertia of direction. Now coming to the next one, what is the biodata of this inertia? In physics, definitely we should go through at the nook and the corner of a physical quantity while learning inertia. Sir, how it is measured? There is no particular formula for this one to find out the inertia mathematically. Simply, mass is the measure of inertia. The inertia of a body is represented with its mass only. That's all. There is no particular formula to find out this inertia. Now let us take the second one of today's concept, force. It's a very often used word in mechanics. So force. What is this force? If anybody asks you what is force, the proper answer is force is that. Force is that which changes or tries to change the position of your body. Which changes, it's clear. When we applied some force on your body, what happened? See, I am applying some force, the body is moving. This is called which changes the position of your body. Which tries to change means, let us see this example. I am pushing the board with some force. Of course, this board is not moving. I am trying to change. So coming to the definition of force, force is that which changes or try to change the position of body. What about this force? What about means? What is the formula used? And what are the units used to measure this? And what is the dimensional formula of this physical quantity? And whether it is a scalar or vector? That means what is the direction of this one? Now, from Newton's law, we already derived F is equal to ma. F is equal to ma. Very simple thing. If we take the mass of a body as 1 unit, What is the unit of mass in SI system? Kg. And the acceleration as 1 meter per second square inverse. That means unit of force is 1, which acts on a body of unit mass produce unit acceleration in it, then it is called 1 unit. What is the unit of force? It is nothing but Newton. Newton is the SI unit of force. SI unit. And what about CGS unit? CGS, it is nothing but dyne. Dyne is CGS unit of force. Next question is, what is the dimensional formula of this force? Dimensional formula. In the formula we have mass and the acceleration. Mass means it is expressed as m power 1. There is no question of length and time. Whereas in the acceleration we have L1 t power minus 2. So m1 L1 t power minus 2. This is the dimensional formula of force. Last question, whether it is a scalar or vector. In the formula, F is equal to ma. Coming to the RHS, right hand side, mass is there. We know clearly this mass is a scalar quantity which has no direction. The mass of a body is 2 kg. In which direction? It is idiotic question. Foolish question is. Mass has no direction. The acceleration of a body is 2.5 meter per second square. Definitely the question will arise in what direction. Since it associates with direction, it is a vector quantity. Hence, force is a vector quantity which acts in the direction of forces. This is about force. And next article of our class is impulse. What do you mean by impulse? So very frequently we come across this word from the commentary box. Of course, it's a cricket season. And momentum, impulse, these terms very frequently we come across. What is the impulsive force? When a large force acts on your body for a short interval of time, then such a force is said to be impulsive force, and this phenomena is impulse. This is called impulse. Once again I am repeating, what is impulse? If a large force acts on your body for a short interval of time, then it is said to be impulsive force, and simply this impulse can be measured as, say, impulse I is equal to force into the time for which it acts. That means simply the product of force and the time for which it acts is defined as impulse, F into T. Try to write what are the units of this one and what is the dimensional formula. Once again, whether it is a scalar or vector quantity. See, just now we write the units of force. It is nothing but Newton, and the time it is nothing but second. Newton second is the unit, SI unit of impulse. Whereas in CGS system, it is nothing but dyne second is the CGS unit of impulse. How to measure this impulse and what is its equivalent term? See, let us observe and consider this. Before going to that, okay, we will finalize what is the dimensional formula of this one. Dimensional formula of impulse is equal to force is there. Force means nothing but mass into acceleration into time. Once again, mass m power 1, acceleration L power 1, t power minus 2 into once again time, this is t. It is nothing but m1, L1 and t power minus 1. This is the dimensional formula of impulse. Dear students, if you observe this dimensional formula keenly, it is nothing but the dimensional formula of mass into velocity. See, this is for mass and this is for velocity. That means it indicates there is a connection between the mass into velocity with impulse. This is impulse. How they are related? Let us observe in this case. The body, consider a body of mass m, which is moving with an initial velocity u. By the application of force F, it accelerates by amount A. A is the acceleration, and its final velocity reaches to V after a time delta t. Let this force acts on this body from time instant t1 to t2. Let delta t is the interval of time for which the force acts. Once again, just learn it very casually. I am going to use all the basic formula in physics which you all learnt in the previous kinematics chapter. Now let us see this. What is the mass of the body? M. What is the initial velocity? U. What is the force applied? F. What is the acceleration produced? A. What is its final velocity? V. What is the time taken for which the force acts, that is delta t, from t1 to t2? This is the data. Which factor relates u, a, v and t? From your kinematics knowledge, you can say comfortably, it is nothing but v is equal to u plus at. Okay? Now see, this can be written as v minus u is equal to at. Am I right? Multiply this equation, with m on either sides. Then we have m into v minus u is equal to mat. Now see, m into v, it is nothing but me. M into u, it is nothing but mu is equal to ma and t this. What is mv? Mass into final velocity, which is nothing but final momentum. M into u, initial velocity, nothing but initial momentum, is equal to, see, this ma can be written as force. That's why it is nothing but force into time. This final momentum minus initial momentum, once again it is nothing but change in momentum. Change in momentum is equal to F into T, which is nothing but impulses. See, this is called learning. Don't try to bahat a physics formula. In general, I'm hearing very frequently, sir, I forgot the formula, sir. Don't try to bahat the physics formula. Don't try to scoop them forcefully. Very casually try to learn them. If you learn it with interest, definitely you will enjoy physics. Otherwise, it becomes devil to you. This learning. What is learning? Learning is different. While going through a newspaper, you can find out the total description of yesterday's cricket match in the newspaper, which is about 1 page, complete full page, with a lot of information. This Chennai Super Kings with the Kolkata Knight Riders. What is the score done by your favorite Dhoni? In which over he enters a field, how many overs he played, what is his run rate, everything you can give. Just by going once through the newspaper, it is possible. But why not in the case of physics? In the previous case, you have interest and you are very eager to know about that match. Whereas here you feel yourself it is difficult. It's not true. So try to learn physics very casually, and definitely then you will feel very comfortable in this. It's not a difficult subject. Once again, I'm telling, right? That means change of momentum is nothing but impulse. Now, in case of variable force, that means the product of force and time is called impulse. If the force is not uniform, in case of variable force, what happened to this one? In case of variable force, that means it's changing from time to time. It's a T1 to T2. It is changing from this. We can find out the impulse by integrating the variable force within the limits, time limits T1 to T2 into delta T. Using this formula, we can calculate what is the impulse caused due to variable force. Now, let's go for the concept of momentum. Momentum, very interesting and very common term we find in mechanics, in calculating part. What is momentum? Honestly speaking, measuring a moving body is nothing but momentum. Of course, it's very silly. It's very simple thing. This measuring a moving body is nothing but the momentum. When a car, that means a light vehicle, and a heavy truck which are moving towards you with the same velocity, which one is easier, to stop a car or to stop a truck? Which one is easier to you? This undoubtedly stopping a car is easier. This that makes a difference between the momentum of two bodies, heavier bodies. Coming to the calculative part, the momentum can be calculated as the product of mass and velocity. Momentum P is equal to mass into velocity. What about the resistance? What about the biodata of this one? What are the units used? Mass is measured in kg in SI system. Velocity is measured in meter second inverse. Kg meter second inverse in SI system. Whereas gram centimeter second inverse in CGS systems. What is the dimensional formula of momentum? Very simple. For mass, the dimensional formula for momentum, mass is there. That means 1 unit mass is there. Velocity L1 t power minus 1. This is the dimensional formula for momentum. Have you observed anything? Notice? What you notice? It is nothing but the momentum of the physical quantity impulse. Hence, be ready with one more answer to face one more question. Which of the following pair of physical quantities having same dimensional formula? Momentum and impulse have the same dimensional formula. Last one, what is momentum? That means whether it is scalar or vector. That is the next question. See, in the formula we have mass into velocity. Mass is a scalar, whereas velocity is a vector. As a result, momentum is also a vector which acts in the direction of the velocity. Velocity is in the direction of the momentum, causes that motion. That's all. This is about momentum.